Hey, my name's Jeff Seidel, and we're going to be with you today on Raging Thunder Fire Dragon Conqueror News, talking about the late 90s and the post-Cold War era. I'm here with Ben Isley and John Ravi today.
Alright, Jeff Seidel. So the Cold War just ended. It's 1991 right now. And the Soviet Union is broken up into smaller nations. What are the consequences of this in the U.S. right now? So tell us about how society and culture work in this era.
So the end of the 20th century brought revolutions in biotechnology, mass communication, and computers. The World Wide Web became a commercial phenomenon in the early 1990s after it had previously been a U.S. military communications tool. Also, we have cloning in the late 1990s, which also created concerns about bioethics. We first cloned a sheep named Dolly and created the possibility of even practicing in humans. The 1980s saw the explosion of the PC. So people were owning computers now and were using them all throughout the U.S. The wealth and power in the hands of technology companies exploded. The mid to late 20th century also saw a lot of immigration. Mostly non-whites came to the U.S., creating a difficult assimilation due to language and cultural differences. Native U.S. population is the oldest it's ever been, with the ongoing retirements of the so-called baby boom generation.
Yeah.
Social Security and Medicare created a lot of financial strain on the system, and it is still becoming more significant today, through the next 15, 20 years.
So you're talking about multicultural society. And multicultural society played a big role in politics. And George Bush, his election actually had a key part with immigration. One of his quotes said, we are now one of the largest Spanish-speaking nations in the world. We're a major source of Latin music, journalism, and culture. Just go to Miami or San Antonio, Los Angeles, Chicago, or West New York, New Jersey, and close your eyes and listen. You can just as easily be in Santo Domingo or Santiago.
Yeah, that's true. There was also a lot of literature that came out of this area about multicultural reality. There are various films and movies such as The Disuniting of America, which is a book about American multiculturalism, and El Norte, which is a film directed by Gregory Nava about immigration from Guatemala to America. So politics in a multicultural society, like you brought up, became a really big concern because there were concerns about illegal immigration. It became a really challenging problem with several states, particularly in the southern border states. Government sought many remedies, such as Proposition 187, which was by California in '94. From the late 90s to the end of the 20th century, many non-whites were elected to high political offices. So that is kind of like proof of the blending of society that was going on.
All right, thank you, Jeff Seidel, for that. All right, so we will focus on what happened to other countries after the Cold War, right after the break.
Dude, it's not other countries, it's partially our country as well. It's like 95%.
Keep this in there. This is good.
Hi, welcome to Raging Thunder Fire Dragon Conqueror News. I'm John Ravi, and we're going to be talking about post-1990 world.
Okay. All right, Jeff. Dang it.
Alright, so to start things off, the U.S. Army cut expenditure after the Cold War ended until 2001, when the War on Terror was started. When the Berlin Wall fell, socialism fell around the world, and a lot of socialist parties in surrounding countries around the Soviet Union actually dissolved.
What year was that, John Ravi?
It was about 1991, 1992.
All right.
Good question, Ben.
In 1990, the apartheid fell, just for further reference on what else was going on around the world. We didn't really do anything about that in the United States, but it fell. The internet was created as ARPANET as a means for the Pentagon to keep in touch in case of nuclear war. Keep in mind, at that time, in 1995, 0.5% of the world was accessible to the internet, and today about 33% of the population is online.
World was accessible.
I'm sorry, let me rephrase. I'm sorry. In 1995, 0.5% of the world accessed the internet, and today about 33% of the population is online. For the first time in history, after the Iron Curtain fell, the economy of the world was truly global, except, of course, for Cuba and North Korea. Bill Clinton was elected over George H.W. Bush instead of a second term in 1992. Clinton considered himself a new Democrat and was actually the founding member of the Democratic Leadership Council. When Clinton left office, he had the highest approval rating of any president since FDR. And he was the first president to be impeached since Andrew Johnson because of the Monica Lewinsky scandal. He was acquitted by the Senate.
I'm never voting for any president who did not attend at least 2 Ivy League schools. I'm not. I'm like, Obama went to Harvard and Columbia. George Bush went to Yale and Yale for graduate school.
George W. Bush was elected in 2000 over Al Gore with one of the closest elections of all time, coming down to Florida. It was recounted 3 times, and George Bush was eventually declared president. Bush's presidency was dominated by the September 11, 2001 attacks on the World Trade Centers. This caused an all-out war on terror against groups such as Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, sparking the Afghanistan War. In 2003, Iraq was thought to have nuclear weapons, which started the Iraq War. This war set up a new government in Iraq and led to the demise of Saddam Hussein. This war lasted until December of 2011, when the United States pulled out of Iraq completely. The Afghanistan war is still ongoing, but Osama bin Laden was found in Pakistan and was terminated by U.S. forces last year. In other countries, Russia today is declared a democracy, and yeah, that was the United States and other countries as well.
Thank you, John.
Yes, that was good. Is this thing on? Alright, I'm Ben, and I'm here with Jeff Seidel and John Ravi on the Raging Thunder Fire Dragon Conquerors news. And we're here talking about the post-Cold War in America and other countries too. And Jeff talked about society and culture, while John Ravi talked about
Post-Cold War.
now we're going to talk about politics and economics in post-Cold War. Alright, 1991, Gulf War ends, and the U.S. withdraws.
Correct.
Alright, so the end of the 20th century, America became the top exporter in all of the world. One of the top, anyway. And it exceeded $8.5 trillion of outputs of goods and services, even though the United States only had less than 5% of the world's population. So through this prosperity, a lot of people wanted to move to America. A lot of immigrants came here. This affected the politics a lot. Just Seidel, what are your comments on this?
Yeah, so the political and social state of the late 1990s and 20th century were heavily influenced by the politics and foreign trade.
Yeah.
There were many riots and also many amendments that were proposed that were going to affect the social climate, I guess you'd say, of America. The Equal Rights Amendment refers to the failed U.S. constitutional amendment proposal that would have explicitly granted equal gender rights, so that was very important for men and women. The Stonewall riots were a series of random and violent demonstrations in 1969 that were related to an LGBT movement. This was also a time in history where the first African American was elected governor of a state in America. That was L. Douglas Wilder.
Even though America had a lot of prosperity, some unmarried mothers and children still lived in poverty. And the aging of the large post-World War II baby boom generation promised to tax the nation's pension and healthcare systems early in the 21st century. And the global economic integration has brought some dislocation along with many advantages. In particular, traditional manufacturing industries have suffered setbacks, and the nation had a large and seemingly irreversible deficit in its trade and with other countries. The first and most important thing is that America still remains a market economy. Americans continue to believe that an economy generally operates best when decisions about what to produce and what prices to charge for the goods are made through give and take of millions of independent buyers and sellers, not by the government or by powerful private interests. In a free market system, Americans believe prices are likely to reflect the true value of things and thus can best guide the economy to produce what is most needed. This is why we're not communist, guys. Alright guys, check this out. 51% of immigrants in 2000 were all Latin Americans.
Wow.
Yeah. And only 2% were African.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That figure blows my mind.
It really does, honestly. John Ravi, I'm a really source for that, actually.
That's actually John.
So Jeff Seidel, you said you have some other stuff to share with us.
No. I mean, like, I've got...
Looks like Ben Isley's living.
you're Ben Isley.
And recycle that on your way out.
Hey everybody, it's time for us to sign off now. Thank you for coming to this edition of Raging Thunder Fire Dragon Conqueror News. Really appreciate your viewing. Come back with us next time.